Namaste and welcome to another episode of the Bharatvaarta podcast. While organized chess arose in the 19th century, the origin of chess can be traced back to the 6th century in India. Chaturanga, Shatranj, Chadurangam, Buddhibal. These are some of the names by which chess is known in different Indian languages. Chess competition today is internationally governed by FIDE, which has over 180 members and is second only to FIFA. So, chess is the second most popular game in the world right now. Chess has also influenced art, culture, and has connections with other fields such as mathematics, computer science, and philosophy. When it comes to Indian chess, Manuel Aaron became the first international master from India in 1961. Vishwanathan Anand became India's first chess grandmaster in 1988, and Koneru Hampi became India's first woman chess grandmaster in 2001. Currently, India has 67 men and 20 women chess grandmasters. Our guest today, Ramesh RB, is a chess grandmaster himself. He won the 2002 British Championship and the 2007 Commonwealth Championships. He runs Chess Gurukul, a chess academy in Chennai, to train young players since 2008. Chess Gurukul has produced many international champions from India. Ramesh is married to women's grandmaster Aarti Ramaswamy. They are India's first grandmaster couple. Today, we will talk to Ramesh about chess in India, the coaching infrastructure, his thoughts on the future of chess, and a lot more on this podcast. Welcome to Bharatvaarta, Ramesh. An absolute pleasure to host you today.
Yeah, namaste, Mr. Sivatsa. I'm honored to be here. And first of all, let me thank you for the kind invitation for this interview. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot, Ramesh. So, to start off, let's start with understanding, how chess is seen in India. Do you think chess has the right ecosystem in India?
I think it is a work in progress, I would say. And whatever facilities or infrastructure that will be made available, we will always come up with something new that can be in place as well. So I think human mind will always aspire to have more in its favor. So I would say it's a work in progress, but if we compare with where we were earlier and where we have come to at present, I would say a lot of progress has been made in various categories. I would say the government is more pro sports. They have a larger budget for sports, and even though they are focusing currently more on getting a medal in Olympics, that is where most of the investment is going in from government's perspective, financial as well as infrastructural wise. But I think sports like chess have also received subsequent attention from the government, both the central government and also from state governments in various states. Though not all state governments are very aware of the achievement of chess players in international arena. Most of the states are waking up to that fact that our players are doing well, and they have been supporting the game much better than before in their own way. And apart from government support, the private sector are also slowly coming up to support our game. We have many sponsors supporting individual players. For example, Akshay Kalpa has been sponsoring one of our young grandmasters, Nihal Sarim, and subsequently Ramco Group. They have been sponsoring another young child prodigy, Grandmaster Praggnanandhaa, and so on. Apart from that, we have many public sector companies. They have been providing employment opportunities to the top players in our country, and most of our players are able to get good sponsorship from private sector as well. And as far as tournament initiatives are concerned, there are more international tournaments happening within India. Earlier, our players had to travel abroad to compete with international players, but now the reverse is also happening. More international players are coming to India to play here due to better facilities we are providing and also financial incentives. And so I think the game as such is growing phenomenally in our country, and chess as such is seen um, as one of the more popular sports, or we could say one of the fastest growing sports, at least in India. And in the West, people are beginning to respect Indian players. They are kind of also fearing our players. They are not very comfortable playing against the Indians because our players are extremely hardworking, and they also are more mentally and emotionally calm when it comes to handling pressures on the board. So I think the direction in which the game is going evolving is in very positive place.
Right. So one thing you hear from people who don't understand chess is that they don't really look at chess as a sport. It's almost seen as a board game.
Like a
You
Ludo
know,
or Snake and Ladder.
exactly, and that might be kind of annoying, I guess. So how do we address this mindset and get people to realize that chess is actually a sport which requires a lot of dedication, practice, hours of training, and so on?
I think we should also look at it from a different perspective. For example, when we were young, we play hide and seek with our friends, or running and catching, or whatever silly games we could come up with, and we really enjoyed playing those games, right? Even though it was not financially rewarding, or if we are successful, if we win that game, we are not going to become internationally popular or anything, right? So we did it for the sake of pure enjoyment it gave us. It made us happy, and there were no other incentives required for us to do to play those games, right? So I feel most of human endeavor, it should be like that. It should be done for the sake of doing it, and for the pleasure, and for all the other positive aspects associated with it. And so that is how any sportsman, if you take most of the top cricketers or tennis players, or for that matter chess players, they came to their respective sports. It's not because it is widely respected by people around the world, or it's going to give you financial incentives, or you're going to get a job. No, when we were young, when we take up some sport, it's done purely out of passion. So from individual perspective, it doesn't really matter how others view the game. So if they want to acknowledge it as a sport or a game, it doesn't really matter at a personal level. But for the larger growth of the sport, I do agree that if people have a more positive impression about an activity, we are likely to get more sponsorships and more viewership from the audience and sponsors. So in that sense, yes, the image people have around chess, whether it is a game or a sport, it could matter. But what I feel from my personal experience is like people around the world, they look at chess players as people who are kind of intelligent, because it's kind of an intellectual activity. So they think chess players are smart, intelligent, and so on. So that also works in our favor. So they don't look down upon us as individuals, but they look up to us in some ways. So I think once some big activity, for example, if you take the kabaddi game, even though it was a very traditional game, it did not capture the attention of a larger audience. But once Mahindra Group came and started the Kabaddi League, it got shown on television live, and their players became heroes, at least to better than before larger audience. So I think when big ideas come into the game as well, it will have a similar positive impact. It can reach up to a larger audience. But even for chess players, we are not really sure whether chess is a sport or an art or a science or a game, how we want to look at it. And usually chess players are not bothered about these things. They just love chess and they go about playing. And there is a decent money also available for players if they do well. There are many international competitions happening. There are sufficient sponsors, and it is getting better.
Right. So since you talked about the passion and enthusiasm, which is what gets people started on chess, other than that, what attracts new players to chess? The second question is, since you run a school, I'm sure parents must be coming to you and saying that I want my son to be the next Vishwanathan, Anand, or they might do they does that kind of thing happen, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it happens all the time, and in a way, it is a positive change because parents are more involved in the career prospects, or they are more invested emotionally, financially, time wise. They are more involved in their child's upbringing. But in a way, it is also disturbing. But I'll come to this probably a little later. What happens is, like I said before, when we were young, when we played games, whatever games, we it started as a passion or as a hobby, as a time pass, and we were fully enjoying the whole experience. There was no stress on performance involved, like if I lose or win. We did not look at it as a win or a loss. It's just different experiences, right? If you lose a game, again you play and try to win. So there was no external pressure, and you were not expected to fulfill others' expectations from you. Like, but with more attention the parents are giving. Like, and when I came to chess, for example, Vishwanathan Anand became Grandmaster in the late 1988 or early
88, yes.
89. So that was the time when he became a GM, Grandmaster. And I also wanted to be a GM like him. And that was my motivation why I took up to professional chess from moving from just a hobby to taking it up more seriously. But even in my case, like my parents were not really expecting me to be a successful chess player. And in my view, the word success is also to be placed in quote. There is no definition of success.
It's mostly financial, right?
I would, I mean, that is too simplistic in my
Yeah.
personal view. Success
Yeah.
is like if I, let's say, if I work towards something and I achieve it, even though I'm not financially rewarded, it could be considered as a success. Or, for example, let me try to throw a stone as far as I can. And if I feel like I threw it very far, then it can be considered a success, even though I'm not going to be rewarded financially or I'm not going to become popular as a result. So I think it's largely subjective. But yes, as you said, from parents' perspective, they feel if my child can earn, make a decent living out of this activity, then they would see it as a success. My child has been successful in that career. But me, I look at it from a chess player's perspective, and also as a person who has become a coach working with young players. I've seen that this kind of expectation from others, be it parents or coaches or from the society, it puts tremendous pressure on young children's mind. So I feel like till the age of at least 15 to 18 years, young children they should do any activity because it makes them happy, and it gives them an opportunity to be creative, to challenge themselves in different ways, to be experimentative. You do things even when you're not sure how the outcome will be, and you just want to do it to just know how you can do, how well or poorly you can do it, and how it can turn out, to satisfy your curiosity. So there are a lot of other aspects of a personality which can benefit when you take up any activity intensely. So I think that should not be lost, because that's a very important part of our life education, I would say, apart from what we learn from the books in schools. I think these are other aspects of human dimension which one should be exposed to at young age. Like I should know how qualified I am in different activities, how good or bad I am, how well I can change myself. These are all very important part of growth of an individual, I would say. So, but these days, what is happening? Many parents, they see some players are successful in a field and they get inspired. Like at such a young age, this child is doing so well in this particular field, and then they wish my child, if he or she can also be successful in this field, then I would be more happy. So it is in current times, it is mostly the parents who decide what the child's passion should be. I'm not very comfortable with this aspect. It should be the other way around. The child should try various things, and it should get pulled over to some activity. And that activity, if the parents can support, and also with less expectation in return, I think that will be the ideal situation. But I have seen, like, because the parents have a lot of expectation, even without knowing whether the child has the capability to pull it off, it puts tremendous pressure on a young child's mind. And it's sad to see that many young children, they are very stressed out as a result. They feel like they are always under observation, they are always being judged by others, and they also learn at a very young age to think that losing is something negative and bad and should be avoided at all cost. And then what happens? Young children, they try to when I see, like in recent times in online games especially, young children, as young as 8, 9, 10-year-old children, they resort to cheating while playing online games. They use the help of technology, analytical engines, and so on. And I feel it should not go in this path.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that that's a great insight, Ramesh. Coming to the sport itself, you won championships, the British Open and the Commonwealth last decade, right?
Yeah.
Uh, have you seen recognition for players change over the years in the sport of chess?
I think uh, till recently, its recognition to sports is largely politicized, and that is a sad state of affairs, I should say. I'm not speaking with any document proof to make my
No, fair
point,
enough.
but that's
Experiences. Yeah.
the impression I've been being in the sports field for more than 2 decades. That's the impression I get, at least from outside. And usually it's or people who people can be made heroes by the media if they chose to. So they can choose to make a person into a hero, and then subsequently he gets rewarded by government and so on. So largely what happens in many fields, people with better achievements are largely ignored, and people with better brand image are chosen for the awards. And but I believe with time and with awareness, things will change for the better.
Right. So Ramesh, you started Chess Gurukul in 2008. How has your experience been?
Um, well, like I said, I came to chess in the year 1988, and then 10 years down the line, 1998, I was approached by my wife, Arti, her mother back then, and she asked me if I can be her trainer. And I was like, had only 10 years of experience as a player myself, and I was like 22 years old back then, and my wife was my first student. And before that, the same year, 1988, I was approached by the Indian Chess Federation. They asked me to be the coach for the Indian team for the Asian Junior Championship held at Iran. So I don't know on what criteria or what basis they asked me to be the coach, because I was 22 years old and the team was under 20. So I was not very experienced or a senior player when compared with the players themselves. I was almost their age, but it was a very new opportunity. I said yes, and um, not because of my effort, largely due to the credit to the players. In both the boys and girls section, we won the gold medal in the Asian Junior Championship. And then I got this opportunity to work with Aarti, who eventually became my wife. And in 1999, the following year, she won World Under 18 Championship in girls. And this was the first world title an Indian player is getting, um, after Vishwanathan Anand's World Junior Championship title, which happened in 1988, so 10 years ago. So this was which had a big impact both on women chess in India. Till then, only Anand or Manuel Aaron, only few players were known, at least in the chess field. But then Aarti winning the World Under 18 title, it gave a big boost to the women chess in India. And a big corporate like Wipro came forward to sponsor her, and also another young achiever back then, Grandmaster Harikrishna from Andhra Pradesh. So they both got good sponsorship from a private entity like Wipro. So it gave a good visibility to the game, and she was called to give many interviews in television, newspaper, and all. So there was a good coverage for the game. And subsequently, so at that point, I understood that I can be a good coach as well, apart from being a player myself. And then I started working with more players. And between 1998 till 2008. For the 10 years, I have been working with many players, being a player myself, and most of them became successful as players. And that gave me a lot of confidence. And I was working with Indian Oil Corporation back then as deputy manager. I quit my job and also my playing career in 2008 and started Chess Gurukul. So uh, those 10 years before 2008, it gave me a lot of confidence that I could be a good coach because of the results I had produced. So I had a firm belief in my capabilities, and I felt back then most of the Indian players they had to travel abroad or bring foreign coaches to India at exorbitant price to meet their training needs because there was no professional or proper training infrastructure in place in India. So most of our coaches were players who did not could not do well or achieve sufficiently as a player, so they took to coaching as a career. So I was the first one who was reasonably successful as a player and turned into a coach, and that gave a lot of professional respectability. And many top players in India back then they came to me for training, and they could get good results. And as a result, now we have many young good chess players. They are also working as trainers with the young generation, and gradually we are building a large pool of professional chess coaches in India.
So Ramesh, that leads me on nicely to my next question. Can you talk about some of the key players who have emerged from Chess Gurukul? I know there's a lot of talk around Praggnanandhaa. He seems to be a prodigy. But can you talk about some of the players who you think have done well or can do well?
Yeah, like I said, we established Chess Gurukul in 2008, and from then till now, we have achieved phenomenal results in chess at the international level and the national level. And at one Commonwealth Championship, this was around 2010 or 12. So there was Commonwealth Championship happening at Mumbai, and in chess, two players play against each other, white
Yeah.
and black. And in the first 40 tables in the tournament, me and my wife went and started counting how many of my students were participating. And in the first 40 tables, there were 40 players who were our students. So almost like 50% of the participants were our students in the top 40 boards. So that gave a lot of satisfaction. And also like our Chess Gurukul, we have over 400 students who are learning from us online and living outside of India. So more than 400 students who are learning from Chess Gurukul from abroad, and most of them are extremely happy with the training and the quality of the training we provide. And apart from that, like you mentioned, apart from Praggnanandhaa, our students have won more medals in World Youth Championship. In chess, we have World Championship for different age categories, starting from under 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So for all these age categories, we have World Championship happening every year. Similarly, we also have Asian Championship and National Championship happening every year in all these categories, separately for boys and separately for girls. So in all these age category tournaments, our students have won more than 100 medals in the world, Asian, and national titles. And this is something more than many countries have done, achieved on their own. So we are very proud and honored about this. And regarding individual names, I would say uh, the last 4 years, our students have won the national title in the senior championship. Last year and the year before, the national champion was Arvind Chidambaram. He has won for the 2 consecutive years. And the 2 years prior to that, it was Karthik and Murali. So they both are Grandmasters and been Indian National Championship. And apart from that, Praggnanandhaa's sister Vaishali, she is a women international master, women grandmaster herself. And I also work with young Bharat Subramaniam and Pranesh. These two are 13 and 14-year-old boys
Oh.
who are international masters, one of the youngest in the world, you can say. They also have a grandmaster on each. So I've been working with many players. I don't want to name few and at the cost of leaving others out. I'm extremely proud of each and every one of my students.
That's a fantastic lineup you just spoken about. So Ramesh, in 2013, during the Anand Carlsen match, your Twitter commentary with Susan Polgar made you quite famous. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, in 2013, when the World Championship match between our Vishwanathan Anand and Magnus Carlsen was supposed to take place at Chennai, I got a call from ACF on the Chess Federation asking me to be one of the commentators, one of the four commentators for the tournament, and in a Doordarshan channel, so Didi and Didi Sports. And that was the first time you can say where a big mega event in chess is being covered live by Indian television channel with commentary. And I was a bit apprehensive because this is very new for the game itself that is being covered live, and I was not sure how to make chess commentary interesting for the audience, how to make the game itself understandable and entertaining for the audience. And I suspect most of the audience won't know the technicalities of the game. So how do we explain it and make it interesting for layman? But I also felt this is a fantastic opportunity because if we take the game to the larger public, it can gain more in popularity and support, which is very good for the game in the long run. So if we use this opportunity well, then it can be a game changer. So I accepted and took it as a challenge, and the feedback generally we got from the audience was very positive. They enjoyed the commentary, even though most of them did not know the game. The way we presented the game to the audience, they were very happy about it, and they became more curious. Many of them they put their children into the game and so on. So I think now from that experience onwards, now most of the top tournaments, chess tournaments happening around the world, they have their own private websites, and in those websites they have started providing live commentary. So they engage the top players are from around the world, and they use them to give live commentary of the games in their websites, which has become a phenomenal hit among the online audience. So after the recent Netflix series Queen's Gambit, chess has become even more popular sport around the world, and we have read reports that the number of chess sets that is being sold across the world, it has risen at least three times more than it was before. So the game is becoming more popular online among the online audience, digital audience, which is good for the game.
Fantastic. So coming to the chess infrastructure, what kind of facilities do chess players and coaches desire, and how can the government help in popularizing chess even more?
I think the government is, as such, doing a good job, and I am a strong believer that we should not leave everything to the government. And as individual entities who have skin in the game, we should contribute our bit to make the growth of the game, speed up the process a little bit. So I don't believe like we should be expecting from others, and we should focus on doing what we can do for the betterment of the game. And then that eventually should, when more people do this collectively, then it should be the base for the growth engine. So I feel there are many things that can happen which can make this process more efficient. I would say it's high time we should have a chess league in terms of like we have the IPL for cricket or the Kabaddi League and so on. So I think it is high time we have our own chess league because we have sufficient top players in our country, and we have the resources to invite top players from around the world as well to come and play in our country. So I think that will also act as a financial incentive for people who are coming from poorer sections of the society. So I think that could be a big game changer for the image and the financial prospects of our players. And the other thing I would say is like I said before, the game is becoming more popular online. So more online tournaments are also happening now, and it has been helped by the lockdown as a result of COVID situation. So since people cannot travel out, they are more venturing into uh, playing online competitions. So that is also another area which is growing as such, and it is something which can grow faster. And apart from that, most of our coaches till 10 years ago, they were from other countries, or if not most, if not all, I would say like almost all the coaches were from other countries, and they were very expensive, and they also did not have any understanding about how an Indian mind works. We are more emotionally inclined, we can be pushed much harder, and generally young children in the West, we cannot push them beyond a point, like they will start resisting, and parents will also not be very comfortable. But with Indian children, the children themselves, they want to be trained very hard, so they are open to pushing their limits. So it is really good if we can have more Indian coaches training Indian players, because we know what can be gotten out of our young children, and that has been happening. But probably like the Indian Federation uh, or some private entity, they can organize some chess clubs where people can come and play. This can and if we can have such clubs in all major districts of our country, this can bring more people into the game. And also having many international tournaments happening in India, I think that will also be largely helpful.
Right. So you spoke about the private sector. So does chess as a sport get enough support and help from the private sector?
Recently, I read a press release from Mahindra Groups. They were saying like they are going to organize Indian Chess League. They have made an announcement, and I'm not sure at what stage it is currently, but I hope it will turn out to be true. If that happens, then we can in the coming year, probably before the end of 2021, we can see many private organizations putting their money in chess. So I think in the next couple of months we should be getting some good information on good announcements on that prospect. And if this happens, then I would definitely, I'm very positive about increased private sector participation in chess.
So other than holding tournaments, do you think is there any other way the private sector can help? So for instance, when it comes to travel or international tournaments and so on, is
Yeah,
that something that is happening, or can
yeah.
that
So
happen more?
yeah, for example, the Indian team, when we participated in the last Olympiad in 2018 at Baku, the Indian team was sponsored by Ramco Group, and they paid for our training needs, and we could take four young players as coaches with the team. So these four, they came with the team. The expenses are borne by the Ramco Group, and their accommodation, food, everything. And we were also provided with the four very powerful servers, which we could use remotely from the foreign country to aid our preparation. So the Indian team was sponsored by a private uh, corporate. And like I said, Anand Mahindra Group, they have come forward to host the Indian Chess League, probably from this year. And apart from that, like I said, there are many private companies who are sponsoring players individually. Like Ramco Group is supporting Praggnanandhaa, and we have like Akshay Kalpa sponsoring Nihal Sarin, and there are many other private sponsors who are sponsoring players individually. And also almost all the public sector companies, they are providing job opportunities for top chess players. So things are happening, and I just see it as a positive start, and I'm sure it will just get better in the coming years.
That's great to hear. So, Ramesh, a personal sort of question now. You played a very significant role in India's chess dominance, right, with Chess Gurukul. So, does it, sort of rankle that, awards like Dronacharya Award, you're not considered for these awards despite such, magnificent contributions to chess?
Like I when we in 2014, India won bronze medal in the chess Olympiad, and in that almost 180 countries, if I'm not mistaken, around that,
Yeah.
around 180 countries participate, sent their team, sent their best team, the national team. So the best players from each country, around 180 countries, they participated in the chess Olympiad, and we were around the 13 or 17th seed. not in the top 10, and we still managed to win bronze medal. And we did not have a single player over 2700 rated. And most of the top teams, they were comprised of at least two players who had a rating of over 2700, and two of our players were below 2600. So it was not one of the strongest teams we fielded, but it was one very young team. Most of the players were very young, without any big experience playing at the top level. So inexperienced young team we had, but the players were very ambitious and extremely hardworking, and we got a bronze medal, and that is the only time in the history of Indian chess where we have won a medal in the chess Olympiad over the board tournament. And then we were almost sure that the players will be rewarded, well received, and rewarded financially, and some national awards will be given to the players and coaches. But it never turned out that way, and it was one of the largely ignored performance. And it was initially hurting a little bit, but we just have to live with it. And as a coach, what I tell my students is like we have to see everything as different experiences. When things go our way or when things don't turn out the way we expect them to be, we don't have to look at it as success or failure. Instead, we can look at it as different experiences, and there is always something positive that can be learned from every experience. Even we may not like the experience, but we can still learn something positive out of it. And if since I am preaching this to my students, I believe I also have to live and apply it in my own life. So even though some disappointment and hurt is there, I try not to think about it much. Instead, focus my energy on what can be done now for a better future. So I just hope that chess players' achievements will also be considered for national awards in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that that's a great way to talk about it. So Ramesh, we're coming to the end. So last couple of questions. The first one is, how do you see the future of chess, not just in India but also across the world?
I think, like I said, the pandemic has been in some ways a big boon to the game of chess, because most of the population were confined to living in their homes, and they were looking at different ways to keep themselves busy. And the parents, they wanted to keep their children engaged in positive activities which can build their capabilities in a positive way. So chess has been one of the beneficiaries as a result. So most of the tournaments which are happening over the board, they became online tournaments played over internet, and they were also associated with live commentaries by top players and coaches. So as a result, even non-chess playing population, they could follow the game, and there's been a phenomenal increase in the viewership on most of these websites and subscriptions. And also, if you see in the last 10 months or so, many Indian grandmasters, they have started their own YouTube channel, and they have been live streaming and taking lessons. They are playing online and they're explaining their thought process live. And for such channels, there have been phenomenal support from the general audience. So I think the game is becoming much more popular worldwide. And like I also mentioned, the Netflix series Queen's Gambit, it had a very positive impact, at least in the Western audience. So even many Western countries, they were reporting higher number of sales on chess sets, chess clocks, and also most of the websites, they have been seeing more jump in subscriptions. So the game has been becoming popular, and I think it is going in the right direction. And we also have a new set of officials taking over the World Chess Federation, and they seem to be very proactive on taking new initiatives to make the game more popular. So I think I see a lot of positives.
Right. So Ramesh, you spoke about the Queen's Gambit. And this question just came to my mind. So, in terms of women's chess in India, what do you think is the current state, and how do you see, that sort of growing as compared to say men's chess?
Yeah, this is something that has been bothering me for the last 10 to 15 years or so. Like after I became a coach, um, one of my one of the successful students, or the most successful students at that part, were the young girls. Like most of my students were young girls who were winning medals in world under 10, 12, 14 categories. They were either winning gold medal or silver or bronze, and they were also dominating at the national level. And I told one of my friends that in another 5 to 10 years, the top players in our country will be my students. All the women players, the top five, or the Indian team will be students of Chess Gurukul. I was very sure about it. But what happened subsequently was almost all the 10 girl students I had who were performing well at the national and international level, they all went into academics when they came to 12th. Once they completed their 12th standard in school, when they wanted to go to university, they used the certificates they got from chess to get into top universities, which was otherwise difficult. So they just use this as a means to get into top universities in India and abroad. And almost all of them stopped playing chess. So this was happening in the women chess, but not in the men chess. And in men chess, there have been every generation has been throwing top players. Like every 3 to 5 years, we will get some new star, 3, 4 new stars coming up in the game. But in the girls, sadly, that is not happening as much. Like someone who was considered young 7 or 10 years ago, they are still being looked upon as the Indian future. But we are not seeing every 3 years some young girl child becoming achieving some big things. That's not happening in women chess. So probably this needs a lot of attention from the officials who are running the game, and also from the coaches. What we can do to improve the situation, we need to come up with some solutions.
Right. So Ramesh, I'll come to the last question for today. So your commentary in 2013 was kind of a turning point in some ways. But what else can be done to make chess, more viewer friendly and spectator friendly? Because there are moments, there are periods, right, where nothing seems to happen. Players are thinking and so
Yeah,
on. Unless if it's speed chess, then it's a different matter. But
yeah,
how do you get more viewers interested so that they stick on and watch the game?
yeah. I think this is something which the administrators and whoever is involved with the game, they have been breaking their heads with for many, maybe last couple of decades, how to make the game more popular and also user viewer friendly. So I could think of a few suggestions. One, the shorter time controls. Like in cricket, if you see, we had a test match which was going for 5 days, and subsequently they came up with one-day internationals, and then it evolved into T20. Maybe in the future we may come up with 5 over tournament or a 10 over tournament. It is very much possible after a few
Yeah.
years. Who knows? So the shortened time control means there is a lot of excitement in very short time. The short time the game lasts, lot of excitement is packed in inbuilt. So this can be more exciting for the audience. The other is the audience, they don't have to, spectators don't have to spend too much time on watching the game because they have their own lives to, their own life to take care. They have their own professions and activities to focus on, so they cannot be like tied to watching a sport for a longer duration. So reducing the time control, but not for all the events, but certain events, which can be like the Indian Chess League I was talking about. You can have such activities for shorter time control, which can make it the game more exciting. The second is giving good commentary, lively commentary, not in a very difficult manner, like in a way where even someone who does not understand the game can be made to sit and watch the game, made to follow the game. So this kind of a good commentary can be a motivator. and increased price fund, because if some are paid a lot of money, the players are paid a lot of money, it will naturally raise the curiosity of the audience in what is going on, why these guys make so much money. Maybe some will come that way. And the other is to introduce the game at schools, like in Armenia, in Turkey, in Russia. The game is taught in schools to help aid the development of the personality of the child, to make them more, to bring up an intelligent population who can think on their own. So chess can aid in that process. So just like math, if chess can also be taught in our schools, and for that a lot of work needs to be done, because who is going to teach? We don't have as many trainers, so probably we should start focusing on teaching the PTs, physical education teachers in the school, or we should avail the services of players. We have thousands of players in our country. We can engage their services to take the game to schools. And if we can introduce the game to teach the game to young children, when they grow, they will certainly can follow the game. So we need a population, larger population, who can understand the technicalities of the game. So if we can work in this direction, I think the game will become more popular.
Right. So thanks for your thoughts, Ramesh. So with that, we come to the end of what has been a really fascinating conversation with Ramesh. Thanks a lot, Ramesh, for your time. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bharatvaarta. Till we meet again, stay safe and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Bharatvaarta podcast. If you want to see more content like this, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We started Bharatvaarta to facilitate long-form discussions on politics, policy, and culture. We don't necessarily endorse anything that was said in this episode. If you wish to offer us feedback, do reach out to us on social media. We are at Bharatvaarta on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You could also get in touch with us on our website, www.bharatvaarta.in. The links are in the description below. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and Jai Hind.